Hello and welcome. Hopefully my voice is coming through on this one. Thank you to Martin for highlighting to me that on my previous Henry Armstrong video there was no audio. Seems to be working okay this time, so I have to redo this video. So let us begin with the great Henry Armstrong with his main opponents. So Henry Armstrong fought and lost, of course, to the great Sugar Ray Robinson. Armstrong was past his title run. Robinson was the rapid rising star. Although Armstrong, to be fair, was on a good run of results, whereas some people say he was completely shot, but judging by who he was fighting and who he was beating, he didn't appear to be that shot to me. He also then defeated Barney Ross, the multi-weight undisputed champion, one at Best Fighters at 1930s, rated by many, and he also fought a trilogy, losing the trilogy, scoring 1 win and suffering 2 defeats to tough Fritzizevich. Martin, can you hear me okay on this one? Is my volume coming through okay? Thank you for highlighting to me the prior upload. I can't leave a video with no audio on. Can't do it. So anyway, next up, is another Hall of Famer who himself beat 8 Hall of Famers, the great lightweight Sammy Angote. Henry Armstrong defeated him, and he had 2 brutal and tough fights, with the Hurricane Luambers scoring 1 win and 1 loss. Next up, is great flyweight who travelled up through the weights, Midget Walgast, Henry Armstrong defeated him. He also defeated the great featherweight and super featherweight Benny Bass, before also holding a win over Hall of Famer Pete Cerrone. Pete Cerrone, of course, was the fighter Armstrong won his first world title from. Barney Ross was the fighter he won his second title from. Luambers he won his third title from. Just to point that out, He then also twice defeated puncher Lou Jenkins, twice from 2 fights, and Armstrong fought and lost to a fighter he didn't defeat, one of the great lightweights of the 1940s, the swarming explosive Bo Jack. Next up, former featherweight Hall of Famer Chalky Wright. Henry Armstrong also defeated him, and he twice fought, great Filipino puncher Severino Garcia, scoring 1 win and 1 draw from those 2 fights. The second fight was the fabled middleweight fight, the draw, and the first one, of course, was when Garcia was a top welterweight contender. So next up is one of Mexico's great fighters and underrated fighters. I still don't see him on many Mexican top 10s. Baby Arizmendi. Now Armstrong scored 3 wins and 2 losses from a 5-fight series. And to close out this immense first slide of names, I mean, the names on there are amazing names, all of them, is former super featherweight champion Frankie Click, whom Armstrong defeated in a singular fight, and then he also defeated the very capable Tippy Larkin. So that is Armstrong's first slide. Going on to his second slide. All of these guys on this slide are still all rated opponents. A few of them champions. So Juan Zurita, another very underrated Mexican fighter, was defeated by Henry Armstrong twice from 2 fights, and Armstrong also defeated former featherweight champion Mike Belois, having a trilogy against Belois, winning all 3 fights. Next up, another former champion with a great resume himself, Leo Rodak, is also defeated by Henry Armstrong. And then Armstrong defeats a great Puerto Rican fighter, a Hall of Famer, never a champion, but a Hall of Famer called Pedro Montanez. Now, next up is one of the best lightweights of the 1940s, rated by many as the greatest lightweight of that era, behind Ike Williams, Bo Jack and Bob Montgomery, so not really a bad position to fall in just behind those guys. Willie Joyce himself scored multiple wins against Hall of Fame fighters and was an outstanding fighter. Now, Armstrong fought Joyce on 4 occasions, scoring 2 wins, 2 losses and no draws. He also then defeated former pound-for-pound rated Davey Day before scoring 2 wins against top 10 contender Paul Jr. Next up was a fighter, Lou Feldman, who was a contender across multiple divisions. He's got an incredibly tough resume himself. I'll have to do his video at some point point soon, just to highlight what a tough career Lou Feldman had. Although against Armstrong, he fought him twice and lost both times. Did Feldman? He couldn't, he couldn't solve the puzzle of Homicide Hank. Next up is young Reitmeier. Okay, Everett Reitmeier, very, very tough contender. Henry Armstrong defeated him, and then he fights two trilogies. The first is against top 10 rated Saverio Terriello. Armstrong wins all three fights. Then he has another trilogy against Ralph Zanelli, in which Armstrong replicates Terriello in winning all three fights. He then also defeats former top 10 contender Moon Mullins, before then fighting twice against another super tough contender, Rodolfo Casanova. Armstrong scored one win and one loss from those two fights. Next up, former top 10 contender Aldo Spaldi. Armstrong fights him 4 times, winning all 4 fights. And he closes out this tough slide too, with many, many good contenders on there, with a win over Maxi Shapiro. So there's slide 2 for Armstrong. Okay, going on to slide 3. They are still all rated opponents. Okay, so next up is the capable Davy Abad. Armstrong fights a trilogy against him, again winning the trilogy, 2 wins, 1 loss, no draw. He then scores singular wins over top 10 contenders Bobby Levas and Frankie Cavelli, before scoring 2 wins from 2 against Varius Milling. He then fights another trilogy, this time against capable contender Tony Chavez. Armstrong again wins a trilogy, scoring 2 wins, 1 loss and no draw. He then goes on a bit of a run of singular wins. Okay, the first over contender Pete DeGrasse. He then also defeats Lou Massey, adding Billy Bochild, Enrico Venturi and Frankie Castillo. All of those guys were also top 10 contenders. Next up is a 2-win series against contender Bobby Pacho. He then beats up and beats Ernie Roderick, before also scoring singular wins over Joe Ganuli and Sheikh Rangel. The final name on this slide is a fighter he didn't defeat. Okay, rare thing when you're looking down his resume like this, but Ruben Shank fought Henry Armstrong once, and Armstrong lost that fight. So that's his third slide full. Okay, when we go on to his fourth and final slide, Henry Armstrong defeated Earl Turner in a singular fight. He also, in a singular fight, defeated Jimmy McDaniels. Next up is contender John Thomas. Armstrong fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. And he also defeated capable puncher Al Bummy Davis in a singular fight. Next up is Luther White. Okay, Slugger White, tough lightweight contender. Armstrong fought him on 1 occasion, fighting to a draw. Armstrong also fought in his career experienced Baby Manuel on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. And he replicated that against Joe Cond, also scoring 1 win, 1 loss and no draw. Armstrong defeated Elmer Brown and Alf Blatch in singular fights, before scoring 2 wins over capable Al Manfredo from 2 fights. Armstrong then also in a singular fight defeated Howard Scott, before then 4 times from 4 defeating Jimmy Garrison. And Armstrong closes out these 4 packed slides, okay, with singular wins over Rodolfo Ramirez and Al Tribuani. So there are 97 fights highlighted there. Henry Armstrong won 79 of them, with 16 losses and 2 draws. So going on to his KOs and rounds boxed, Armstrong scored 101 knockouts. He's in that 100 plus club, at the pinnacle of the knockout charts. Okay, Armstrong scored 37 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and he also scored 6 first round wins. Now Armstrong scored 12 KOs against champions, 6 KOs against Hall of Famers, and 13 KOs against pound for pound fighters. And Henry Armstrong in total scored 43 knockouts against rated opponents. Now in terms of rounds boxed, Armstrong fought just over 1,000 rounds at 1,155. He fought a total of 205 title fight rounds, and he fought totals of 264 rounds against champions, 210 rounds against Hall of Famers and 321 rounds against pound-for-pound fighters. Now, against rated fighters, okay, Henry Armstrong fought 621 rounds against top 10 fighters. He fought 366 rounds against top 3 rated fighters, and he fought 129 rounds against ring champions. And it's quite amazing, really, because when you look at legendary fighters like Archie Moore, Henry Armstrong, when you look at the amount of rounds they fought against top 10 fighters, you do it with Sugar Ray Robinson as well, and you compare them to Rosenblum's tally of over 1,500. It's just insane what Rosenblum did, really. So not being a puncher and having all those fights and fighting all those rated opponents left him with just a ridiculous total of rounds against top 10 fighters, a total that will never be beaten. So there is the Chaos and Rounds box. Now onto the slide of champions, Hall of Famers and pound-for-pounders. So beginning with the first of them, the slide on champions. And as we can see, Henry Armstrong's list is a bit bigger than many fighters I've been covering recently. Henry Armstrong had 30 fights against champions, scoring 22 wins, 7 losses and 1 draw. And Armstrong defeated 16 individual champions. Now, the thing about that is this wasn't in the alphabet era of 4 belts. Many other fighters, you know, Willie Joyce, so many of them, even Lou Feldman probably would have captured an alphabet strap had there been 4 titles around at the time. Beating 16 champions in the year he did is a very high tally. So those 16 champions were, and it's a decorated list: Barney Ross, okay, Fritzy Zivic, Sammy Angot, Lou Ambers, Midget Walgast, Benny Bass, Petey Cerrone, Lou Jenkins, Chalky Wright, Seferino Garcia, Baby Arizmendi, Frankie Click, Tippy Larkin, Juan Zarita, Mike Belois, and Leo Rodak. Now, from those 16 champions, okay, Henry Armstrong stopped 9 of those 16 inside the distance. He stopped Juan Zarita, Mike Belois, Frankie Click, Benny Bass, Petey Cerrone, Chalky Wright, Lou Jenkins, Leo Rodak, and Tippy Larkin. So going on to the Hall of Fame slide. I haven't been up too long. I'll have a quick drink, wet me mouth. Yeah, my apologies. I don't know what happened with the audio on the first one. It seemed to be working okay when I was doing it. But I'll be more mindful next time to make sure the bar indicating mic volume is indeed working. So Hall of Fame category, Armstrong had 21 fights against Hall of Famers, including 14 wins, 7 losses and no draws. Oh, Paul, I would definitely have a coffee for this one, mate. It's a big one. So Hall of Famers beaten, okay. Henry Armstrong is in that small club of fighters, along with McLarnin and Greb and Langford and Robinson, etc., who have defeated double-digit Hall of Famers. Many other fighters like Canzoneri are on 9. Okay, so if they get another Hall of Famer added, they will join that club. Rosenblum's on 8, but Armstrong's in that top little echelon with 11 individual Hall of Famers beaten. Those Hall of Famers are Barney Ross, Fritzy Zivic, Sammy Angot, Lou Ambers, Midget Walgast, Benny Bass, Petey Cerrone, Lou Jenkins, Chalky Wright, Baby Arizmendi, and of course the non-champion who's a Hall of Famer, the great Puerto Rican fighter Pedro Montanez. Now, from those 11 Hall of Famers beaten, Armstrong has stopped 5 of them individually. They are Benny Bass, Petey Cerrone, Chalky Wright, Pedro Montanez and Lou Jenkins. So there is Armstrong's record against Hall of Famers. Going on to his largest group, pound-for-pound fighters. Henry Armstrong had 35 fights against pound-for-pound fighters, scoring 25 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw. Someone said to me as well, they said, well, which pound-for-pounder was it? Oh yeah, they said, he knew he hasn't got all these defeats Armstrong had. I thought, yeah, but he knew he ain't fighting, you know, Sammy Angot and Sugar Ray Robinson either. You know, a little bit different case. So 25 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw. Now Henry Armstrong does jointly hold 1 factoid in my retired database. He and one other fighter have beaten most individual pound-for-pound fighters in my database. Now Paddy Greb has way more wins against pound-for-pounders, but Henry Armstrong beat 1 more individually. Those 18 individual pound-for-pounders beaten are Barney Ross, Fritzy Zivic, Sammy Angot, Lou Ambers, Midget Walgast, Benny Bass, Petey Cerrone, Lou Jenkins, Chalky Wright. We're still on Hall of Famers there. Seferino Garcia, of course, Baby Arismendi, Tippy Larkin, Willie Joyce, Pedro Montanez, Juan Zarita, Mike Balois, Leo Rodak and David Day. A massive 18 individual pound-for-pounders beaten. And pound-for-pounders stopped or knocked out. Okay, from those 18, Armstrong stopped 10 of them. Juan Zarita, Mike Balois, Benny Bass, Pete Cerrone, Chalky Wright, David Day, Pedro Montanez, Lou Jenkins, Leo Rodak and Tippy Larkin. So, incredible numbers on those slides for a fighter in the non-4-belt era. He beat 16 champions. You know, so many of those fighters, you know, Montanez would have more than likely been an alphabet champion. Even Feldman could have been an alphabet champion. So many of those fighters. Rodolfo Casanova, how many champions in a 4-belt era he would have beaten? Goodness only knows, but it would have been a very large amount. So, going on okay to his rated opponent slide, Henry Armstrong has a massive 82 fights against top 10 rated fighters with a record of 66 wins, 14 losses and 2 draws. So his record against top 3 fighters comes in at 42 with a record of 30 wins, 11 losses and 1 draw. And Henry Armstrong also had 13 fights against ring champions, including 9 wins, 4 loss and no draw. So he only had half the number of fights against ring champions that Sugar Ray Robinson had, although Robinson didn't double Armstrong's tally for certain of top 10 fights with 82. Now, individual rated fighters beat, so these are individual names in a list who were rated when Henry Armstrong beat. It's a massive 46. So he defeated 46 individual rated fighters. Of course, he fought some of them more than once. But that is still an enormous tally, 46 individual rated fighters. And he stopped or knocked out a massive 32 individual rated fighters. So another set of incredible numbers for Armstrong. So going on to his title fight numbers, okay, Armstrong had 26 world title fights. He had a record of 22 wins, 3 losses and 1 draw. And Henry Armstrong made a welterweight record that stands to this day from the 1930s. You know, people say records are meant to be broken. Well, this one has stood for like nearly 90 years, and no one has beaten it yet, despite all the glittering welterweights and great welterweights we've had since. No one has beaten Armstrong's tally of 19 world welterweight titles, and that is 19, you know, defences of the world welterweight title, not a single alphabet belt. That is an incredible record that may never be beaten. We will see what happens with passage of time. I think it's going to take a very special fighter to defeat that record. Armstrong, from his 22 title fight wins, scored 16 title fight knockouts. Now, wins against rated fighters in title fights, Armstrong scored 15 wins against top 10 rated fighters in title fights. He also scored 7 wins against top 3 fighters in title fights and 3 wins against ring champions in title fights. Now, his wins against fighters who were world champions in title fights comes in at 5, and he also scored 5 wins against Hall of Famers in title fights and closes out with 7 wins against pound for pound rated fighters in title fights. So, in those final numbers there, Sugar Ray Robinson definitely has advantage over Armstrong in that regard for sure. So, going on to Henry Armstrong's final slide, okay, world titles. One, of course, he captured the world featherweight title, the world lightweight title, and the world welterweight title. He's the only fighter in boxing history to hold 3 lineal world titles at the same time, albeit for a short time. You know, he captured the featherweight title from Cerrone, then went up and battered Barney Ross to capture the welterweight title, then jumped down, okay, to capture the lightweight title from the tough and hard Lou Ambers. He then defended his welterweight title a few times, the featherweight title when he then went down to try and, you know, defend his lightweight title, and had that brutal and bloody affair with Lou Ambers in the second fight. Lou Ambers was a really tough fighter, you know, an old sparring partner when he was coming up with Tony Canzoneri and others, and he was a really, really tough kid, and did very well for himself, as you'll see when his video comes. So many of these names Armstrong fought or defeated, like Lou Ambers, are themselves, you know, Hall of Fame level fighters with great careers, scoring great wins themselves. So it just, to me, enhances Armstrong's overall legacy when he's beaten many names like that. So in terms of lineal titles, Henry Armstrong was a lineal featherweight, lineal lightweight, and lineal welterweight champion, and he was also also undisputed featherweight, undisputed lightweight, and undisputed welterweight champion. So he's a multi-weight undisputed lineal world champion. So my apologies for having to redo this video. There was no volume on one yesterday. I've privatised that video now. This one will take pride of place. Of course, I'll have to go onto my playlist and remove. Oh, in fact, it's privatised, so I can just add this one, I believe, to the playlist and it'll replace it. So there is my video on Homicide and Henry Armstrong and Archie Moore. Someone said to me in comments that Henry Armstrong was Archie Moore's grandson. To me, I'm aware of no familial link, unless I'm mistaken, but to me they're A, very similar age, and B, I'm not aware of any family link between Henry Armstrong and Archie Moore. I could be mistaken, but to my knowledge there is no link through family. Although, if that is not the case, then please hit me up and let me know. But to my knowledge, there is no family link between them. But, you know, I always leave myself open to be wrong, you know, in those instances. So, there is the great Henry Armstrong. I'll be back soon with more videos. Big shout out to people in chat. I'm the Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.